What is up, everybody, and welcome to episode 32 of the Trainer Scoop, a podcast dedicated to helping individuals passionate about fitness improve in life and lifting. Today, I am joined by Coach William Santiago III. William, say what up to the people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, my beautiful people? Coach Will here. I hope all is well with y'all today.
Yes,
Got a
sir.
good
Oh,
one.
man. Hearing that come out of hearing your tagline, my beautiful people, it's like
Yeah,
perfect. Like every time I hear that on YouTube, I'm like, damn, that's a great tagline.
yeah,
And
man.
hearing it one-on-one, it lives up to the hype.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's funny because, like, obviously, I'm still trying to get consistent with the YouTube game at least because it's very different than an Instagram game. You have to be a lot more intricate with the details and how you lay out the videos, optimizing the timing and stuff. You know, the minimum 10-minute and all that for the algorithm, whatever it takes for the algorithm. But
Slaves to the algorithm.
yeah, you already know. But it's funny because like when I first started, it was like me trying to figure out, I was like, okay, how do I want to like introduce myself? And it's like, how do I introduce myself in the quickest way possible, but still also, have my persona be voiced and heard. And like I have a lot of friends that are in YouTube, a lot of big YouTubers, both in the fitness and outside of fitness. And I watch a lot of their content. I kind of try to take notes from them. And I've even asked them for advice. And then, a lot of them tell me that is like, you want to try to, introduce yourself anywhere between 15 to 30 seconds. So that way you could get right into it. Because the quicker you're able to introduce yourself and, get that out of the way. Because if you notice, like literally with my intros, if you ever seen any of my videos, at least the more recent ones, like I would say probably the past 10 to 15, it's literally been me. What's going on, my beautiful people? Coach Will here. I hope all is well. In this video, we're going to do so and so and so. And then with that being said, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and do the whole thing. And then, the whole spiel, like I try to like do it as quickly as possible. So yeah, it took me a little bit to get it, but I think we got something good with that one.
Definitely, man. For sure. And he's already dropping some gems on y'all. So what I'll say is, unless you're operating a car, please stop what you're doing. And is it just like William Santiago III on YouTube, Will? What is it on YouTube?
Yeah, William Santiago III. Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
full name.
Yeah. So go check him out. Will's been dropping good content, really quality, great information. Like I can see your edit game has stepped up as well since the time that I knew you, man. So it's awesome
Yeah,
to see, and I really appreciate if everybody went and supported Will.
much appreciated.
Of course, man. So I want to get real quick into how we kind of cross paths before we talk about you, and I'm gonna put everybody onto some game as I explain that. So, oh man, it's been about 2 years since I first kind
Yeah,
of like encountered Will on Instagram, which I don't know, it's a little different. Sometimes people are like, "Damn, you met someone on Instagram?" I'm like, "Yeah." And if you didn't know, for up and coming content creators, fitness YouTubers, a lot of times they'll be in these like engagement groups, which like, albeit it's a little bit corny, but basically everybody's like, yo, I put up a new post or whatever. And then everybody else in that group goes and like comments, likes, whatever, sends it, shares it, in order to kind of like, once again, work with that algorithm and get everybody's exposure up. So that's how I met Will. And just I don't know about you, Will, but I feel like with me, like I can kind of just like tell when someone's serious about it, when someone actually cares and puts out good information. And I mean, like, no offense to everybody in that group, but there's a couple that I was like definitely like, yo, like this is a good dude. Like, especially with you,
yeah,
man. I was like, yo, he like really knows his stuff. He really cares about helping people, and he's good at what he does. So that's how we met. And just it's weird, man. We've been DMing back and forth for like 2 years, and I'm finally glad to be able to talk to you in a
yeah.
live setting. So
Yeah, no, that's a fact, man. Yeah, it was interesting because that same group. So, just a little bit of extra detail, not to ramble too much on how like I got into the engagement group. It was the guy who set it up. I think we were all like, most of us at least were like fans or somehow some way affiliated with Austin Dunham. The guy was like a very big Austin Dunham fan at the time. He put us all together in there along with like just a couple other people, and threw them all in there. And then, yeah, it was just kind of like, all right, same kind of thing, like engage, like, comment, do the whole thing. And it was funny because I think after like the first, I would say 2 months of being in the group, you started kind of seeing a little bit of the filler in terms of like who's just doing it just to get likes and stuff like that, and then who really actually gives a damn. And once again, like some of these groups too, because I've been a part of several groups after that first one that we were in. Like I was also part of groups that had not just like fitness people, there was people into fashion, culinary arts, things of that nature, like whatever their niche was, it was just like, part of engagement. But it's funny because I cut that off. The last engagement group I was in, I ended up cutting it off because I started seeing a lot of the same BS over and over again. It was just like, it was either they would go in the chat, they would put whatever they post, they'd be like, oh yeah, go like, comment, whatever. They wouldn't engage in your stuff. They would engage in like half the other people's stuff. And then there was always some sort of built-in drama. And then then it got to a point where it's just like, if you're a part of these engagement groups, that you get shadow banned or something. Yeah. So then a lot of these groups ended up going over to Telegram, and then they ended up oversaturating the groups of like 100 people. Yeah, it gets crazy. It was getting crazy. And it's weird because like I never, like when I was a part of each group, like the first group, it definitely helped me build the first base of my following that I had. Definitely, it took me from like 200 to like about 400, but then I kind of like capped off there, and then I left the group and I ended up getting another probably 500, and I was stuck at 500 for like the longest time. And then eventually I joined the other one. It got me up to like 650, but then once again I stalled. Then I left, and then I got up to 700. Then I joined another one, and when he got me up to 720, and then I was at 720 for like I think 6 months. And then basically after I left the last group that I was in, it was just like me meeting people in person, and it's just like from there, being that I was getting more in tune with the calisthenics community, and I was also getting a lot more exposure for a lot of the other collabs that I was doing with like different people. That's kind of like what streamlined the current following that I have. But at the end of the day, man, it's like following is just a following. It like I recently did a collab with the Lost Breed. For those of you who don't know who the Lost Breed is, they're these, really, really cool guys. They're up in Connecticut. They have their own like gym facility, and they've been in the fitness industry for a while now. I think since 2014. And my guy Josh, shout out to him. He said something that really resonated with me the other day. He was just like, take away all of your followers and all the likes and the comments and whatever, and it's just you. Who are you really without the following and the clout and the stuff? It's like, what are you really about? So it's like, at the end of the day, a following is just a following, but what matters is just like helping people out, you know what I mean? Like really giving value, really like, teaching people, which that's like the mantra I've been trying to take with my content lately. I've been trying to figure out how can I, optimize the algorithm and stuff and things of that nature, but at the same time, put out quality information, quality content, teach people different intricacies that are related to fitness and also philosophy. I've been kind of like chiming in a little bit on philosophy lately as well. So,
yeah, man, that's really, really good advice from your guy. And like you said, that's just overall like that affirms my belief that you are like really about it and you got good intentions, man. So that was really good.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah. And man, I can't wait to get into some of the things that you just hit on, but like what first and foremost kind of got you into fitness and got you to be a trainer, to do all this content? What was kind of like the initiation of all that?
So as far as like my background and my story, I started working out when it was halfway through my not sophomore. It was halfway through my junior year of high school. I was 16. I remember it was just after winter break had finished, and it was weird. It was just like I had this one day I just like looked in the mirror, and it was the first time in my life I spent like a good like I think I was literally staring at myself in the mirror for like 10 minutes. And it's like, for whatever reason, I just didn't like what I saw. And then also I just didn't like how I felt. So it was like growing up, especially during my teenage years, like I was a very insecure kid. I was just like real skinny. Not I wouldn't say frail because I was naturally athletic, but I was just very skinny. You know, I was probably a little short, like an inch or two shorter than I am now. I was like at the time 5'8", but like I was 5'8", 130, soaking wet. You know, acne, braces, and you know, like for me, I was just very insecure. It wasn't a good look. So it's just like as like time, you know, progressing, you know, I was having that you know, the glow up that, you know, a lot of people experience. So it's like I ended up getting my braces off, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, nice smile. And then, you know, I couldn't really fix the acne because hormones is hormones. So I was like, well, what can I actually change? I decided to start exercising. So what I ended up doing is it all started at the one little like weight room that we had in my high school, and they had literally just introduced like weight training as a schedule that you could put in for your gym, because you had the option to either play basketball, to do like track and you know, run and stuff, to do there was literally a walking class. This is like they had like just a straight up walking class for people who just wanted to get a passing grade,
Right.
and like volleyball and things like that. And then I decided to opt out for the weight training. So mind you, the weight training, it was just like literally you go in and you essentially show up and do whatever. Like no, not pretty much. I think it was me and like four of my other friends that were like the only ones who were trying to actually weight train.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because it was like me and like the rest of the seniors at the time. And then after like the first like block of, you know, whatever, me just kind of like trying things, just doing whatever I could, you know, it ended up branching off into like me with like my group and you know, my graduating class. So, but like fast forward through like basically all of high school, you know, that's basically where it was just like, it was the trenches. That's basically where it's like I did all of like my trial and error, you know, like I like for the first full year of my training, I did no squats because I was afraid that, oh, squatting is gonna stunt your growth. Like I was one of those people because, you know, the research is always misleading with that stuff. And it wasn't until I was about it like until I was 18 that I really like started looking into YouTube and actually started like researching the stuff rather than just relying on, you know, what my friends were telling me or what the high school basketball coach was telling me. You know, even though I was getting, you know, results and I was actually getting strong and progressing, I figured I'd do the due diligence and take care of things myself, right? So I remember like my first like legit like time looking into the YouTube scene and looking to see what was out there. I came across a whole bunch of different YouTube channels. I was watching Elliot Hulse. I was watching the Hodge twins. I was watching Matt Ogus.
Yep.
I came across Omar Isuf. Shout out to the, you know, Rascal Perry. You already know. I've got way too many of those shirts for my own good, and I'm probably gonna
Yeah,
get a
for
bunch
real, bro.
more. They should just send a whole shipment to my house at this point. Um, and it's like, yeah, it's like I was watching a lot of those guys, and luckily enough, like I was able to like watch a lot of their content because their content was good, and I didn't get caught up in like the at the time like the Zizzes or, you know, aesthetic gods and the Jeff Sides.
Yeah,
You
bro.
know, I didn't get caught up in that limelight. So fast forward a little bit through my journey, once I got into the third year of my training, like at this point, I guess you could say I was a early intermediate with my training journey. You know, definitely a lot stronger than your average person, but nothing crazy, like nothing out of the ordinary. But I found myself, I was getting very tired of training, very complacent. And it was like I wanted something more, something a little different than just like lifting weights, doing some push-ups and dips. So I was just like, you know what? What can I do to be a little different? So that's when I was like, you know what? Maybe I should try out a competitive sport, right? I always wanted to do sports back in high school, but you know, being my build at the time and being that, you know, even though I was naturally athletic, I was, you know, I was never given the opportunity to be coached by the coach to actually learn the sport. So I was just like, let me take it upon myself to, you know, maybe learn something. So that's when, you know, I told my mom, I was like, hey, you know, how would you feel if I did MMA? She was like, you sure you want to do that? I was like, yeah, I don't want to get my butt kicked. I want to learn. So I go to the MMA school. It was a school down on Midtown West Side of New York. And day one, my mom came with me. We did the whole like one class free trial. Coach Renee, that's the guy's name. Coolest dude ever. Real old school with it. Real like traditional like Japanese martial arts. And then yeah, the entire day after the first initial thing where he was just kind of like showing me like super basic stuff, took me downstairs, and then immediately I was just thrown into the trenches. They were doing back sparring in terms of like grappling. And it was basically like as soon as you tap, you switch position with the other person, you make the other person tap, and you switch position again. And I think I literally got tapped out like 20 times straight. Yeah. And I was pretty much helpless, and my mom was just sitting there watching me get my butt kicked. So it was like the most embarrassing experience of my life. But then it was funny because after that, it was just like I go upstairs. The coach asks me, he was like, "Yeah, so it's like, how do you feel? You know, with everything." I'm like, "Yeah, I need to do this shit." So it was just like after that, I had spent a good I spent a good year doing MMA, but also during the time that I was doing MMA, I was still working out and stuff, right? So I asked my coach, I was like, "Oh, what sort of training should I do to help like optimize my performance for mixed martial arts?" And a lot of mixed martial arts coaches or coaches in general, they'll tell you like, "Oh yeah, you should do body weight." A lot of them are very um against weightlifting, except the higher level ones. Like I'm not sure if you're familiar with like Phil Daru and those guys, those real elite coaches. I know Phil Daru, he's coached Steffi Cohen and a lot of those other people. But but yeah, a lot more of the traditional MMA coaches. They're very against weightlifting. They prefer weight training because they think weightlifting is gonna make you bulky, it's gonna weigh you down, it's gonna slow you down, and things of that nature. So because of that, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I should, you know, try to focus a little bit more on my calisthenics roots, right? So what I ended up doing is I ended up leaning a lot more towards like ring training. I got introduced to ring training because at the gym that I was going to, they had like a set of rings that was just hanging from the ceiling. So I would just do ring pull-ups. I would do like inverted rows. I would try my hand at ring dips. I was learning ring dips. Eventually, I learned the ring dips, and yeah, and things of that nature. And then since I was doing a lot of more calisthenics-based training at that time of my journey, I ended up looking up a lot more calisthenics YouTubers. At this point, this is where I came across guys like Chris Heria, guys like Austin Dunham, guys like Hannibal, like all of these real like some OG calisthenics guys, but also some of like more the new school calisthenics guys that were real popular on the YouTube scene. So and also like bar stars and so I took, you know, I ended up picking up things here and there from them. So at this point, pretty much once I was like 4 years into my training, I had a good grasp of like what I needed to do for me. Where I came through a roadblock in my journey when I was trying to get rid of my acne, right? And I had tried basically everything under the sun, but essentially nothing worked out, right? I did antibiotics, I did a whole bunch of topical different things, I changed my diet. I had a almost borderline, I was a borderline vegan at one point,
Wow.
believe it or not, with my diet, because I figured that maybe because, you know, a lot of people, they say, oh yeah, dairy and then meats and stuff flares up acne. None of it really helped me out, right? So my last resort was to hop on like some real strong medication or real strong treatment to help get rid of it. I hopped on Accutane. For those who aren't familiar with what Accutane is, um, I believe it's basically a super dose of vitamin A. It's like a vitamin A derivative, like a super dose of it, and it's basically you have to take it. You take it daily for 6 months, at least on average. Like, you know, depending on how severe your acne is, you'll take it for 6 months, and you have to get your blood work done regularly just to make sure that everything is, you know, in check. And yeah, so like I did that whole thing for 6 months, getting my blood work. My blood work was fine. However, there's a lot of adverse side effects that do come with Accutane. We're talking things like loss in bone marrow. So it's basically the density of your bones isn't that efficient. Also the natural lubrication we have in our joints, right, in our lower back, in our knees and things like that, you actually lose the natural lubrication that are between it. So because of that, you'll develop like a lot of different joint pains, severe back pain. And for me, one of the worst things that I had was I had like a real bad like inflammation in my pelvic floor. So because of that, I actually couldn't do any more weight training. So for the entire 6 months, I did very minimal to almost no weight training at all. And I basically relied just on just basic bodyweight movements. I couldn't even do leg raises. Like I couldn't do no leg raises, no knee, no like literally, even if I were to like lie on the floor and do knee raises, I couldn't do it because it was that bad. So literally I was just doing planks, push-ups, pull-ups, bodyweight squats, lunges, and literally that's it. And even when I was like rolling and doing my MMA, it was like very like taxing some of the positions. And literally I felt like an old man for a whole 6 months.
Wow.
So yeah. So after the 6 months and I got off of the treatment, you know, after about 4 weeks of getting off the treatment, like my body kind of like started coming back to normal. And, you know, obviously my face was clear and stuff like that. Like my face was finally beautiful, but then my body was just like a former shell of what it used to be. You know, it was like I went from like 150 and my body ballooned up to like 167. So it's just like, to me, I was like, damn, you know, I look real soft and, you know, this isn't like me, you know? Mm-hmm. So basically for like this is where like my first like big year transformation comes into play with what I had on my, what I have on my Instagram, where from the, I specifically took a picture the day that I got off the medication, because in my head, I'm like, nah, I know for a fact, I want to get back to where I was. So I took that picture, boom, September at the same spot on my wall to my left right now. And I took another picture 6 months later, boom. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm back to where I was. And then from that 6 month mark, I just basically started like training very, not intuitively, but this is at this point in my training, this is where I really started getting into like weighted calisthenics, because I started seeing a lot of people posting weighted calisthenics stuff, people doing weighted dips, people doing weighted pull-ups, and also like I wanted to be different too. I didn't want to just go back to doing the same thing I was doing. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I focus my training around being really, really strong as far as my upper body is concerned with calisthenics movements, but at the same time, as far as my lower body is concerned, you know, still do the squats and the deadlifts, but toss in maybe some unilateral leg work, because that's also encompassed with calisthenics. So that's basically what the bulk of my training revolved around, as far as, you know, from the 6 months of that first year. And then from there, it's just been kind of like a snowball effect. That's kind of been my main base of training for the past three and a half, almost 4 years now. So now, as far as like what got me into like personal training, around the 6 month mark of my initial year transformation post Acutane, I ended up having a workout with my good friend, Tommy Bryson. Also, quick shout out to him. He has a very, very good financial YouTube channel, for those of you looking, trying to make money and save money, things like that, or doing investing, definitely check my guy out. But aside from that, he talked to me that same day we were working out together. He was like, yeah, whoa, you know, you ever thought about being a trainer? And then in my head at the time, I was like, I mean, I like working out and stuff, but I never really thought about, you know, actually training people for a living or anything like that. And because at the time I was going to school for mechanical engineering, right? So like in my mind, I'm just like, all right, I'm focusing on this. I'm trying to get my degree so that way I could, you know, work on the assembly line, do whatever I got to do, or maybe even work for Con Edison or something like that. So what he tells me, he's like, yeah, well, you're really good at what you do. You have a great understanding and a good base of knowledge in terms of like fitness. You're very well spoken, and you know how to explain things very easily so people can digest it. So, you know, after we had like a long conversation about it, and pretty much I was like, you know what, sure, you know, let me give it a shot. So basically from that day, it was that we had that conversation January 26th of 2018. Right. From that day, I remember that day specifically. I, you know, was looking around to see what certification I should get, you know, where I should get it from. I saw NASM, I saw ACE, I saw NCSF, I saw a bunch of them. I was like, you know what, I'll just go with NASM, right? I was like, why not? Like, it wasn't even because I thought it was like better or worse than the other one. I was just like, it was literally the first one that popped up, and I was like, you know what, I'll just rock with this one, and then we'll see what happens. So I ended up spending a good 6 months studying the whole curriculum before I actually took the test. I could have probably taken the test sooner, but with school and stuff, you know, I had to find that balance. So I remember I took my personal training test October of 2018. I passed it. And then from there, it was just like, you know, it was just like, all right, let me start applying to be a personal trainer part-time. And, you know, I got my first personal training job at a Blink Fitness here in the Bronx. And I was at that place from October, mid-October to of 2018 to mid to late August of 2019. And pretty much I was just kind of like my roots. That's where I started getting my feet wet. You know, I became familiar with a lot of the trainers that I still, you know, the trainers that were at that gym, but now we actually do work outside of that gym now. And, you know, it was a very humbling experience at first, because probably the number one thing that I realized very, very quickly when it came to personal training is just how different it is to deal with different body structures and people who come from different backgrounds, the age groups, the way people's metabolism works, the way that, you know, people's mindset is when it comes to exercise. And there's so many like intricate factors that go into like training a individual that is like I never really thought of before even getting into training. So it's just like initially it was just like, oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna get into this. I'm gonna show people how to like squat, bench, deadlift, whatever, you know, do the big three, you know, show them how to do some push-ups and pull-ups. But then it's like sometimes you come across individuals like, what if they don't want to do that? Right? What if they want to do something completely different? What if their goal is like, oh yeah, I want to run a marathon? For somebody who runs a marathon, they don't necessarily have to do those main movements. Maybe they need to do something that's a little bit more specific towards what they're doing. Right. So then this is where like specificity comes into play, given the individual and their goals. So, and then along with that, it is like just the overall like experience that I was able to get with like dealing with specific people and the specific demographic that I was dealing with, being that I had so many people who are literally like super old, 60, 70. Then I had like more middle-aged people that were like in their 40s to 50s. And I only had like a handful of young people like me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the fact that is like I got into it with the bulk of my people being a lot older, and then, you know, probably like 3 to 5 people kind of like around my age group who I actually trained. It gave me a very different perspective in terms of what it's really about, you know, in terms of like just overall fitness, you know, that it really, aside from like aesthetics, we all like to look good and things like that, but it's also about how we feel, right? We want to feel good, you know, we want to be healthy, you know, we want to be able to move, you know, like the minute that you can't move, it's like, what do you really have? You know what I'm saying? So after like that first initial experience I had with training, after I was done training at Blink, I ended up applying to New York sports clubs in the city, and I started working at New York sports clubs in mid to late August of 2019. Right when I first got started at New York Sports Club, it was one hell of a trip. The first month, obviously, since I'm leaving from one gym to another, you're basically losing all your clients, right? Because you can't take those clients with you. You know, that's just the name of the game when you're going from one commercial gym to a completely different one. So I was basically starting from scratch. You know, no clients. The whole first month of training, I had 0 clients. And the reason for this was because personal training, especially in the summertime, especially in commercial gyms, people on vacation. It's really not the best time. And then on top of that, the location that I got hired for, they had a change in management. So like it was just like all over the place. It was a whole hot mess. But long story short, from August, mid to late August 2019 to about January of 2020, right? Just before COVID hit, you know, I was able to kind of like establish myself and, you know, do what I got to do there. And it was very interesting to see the shift in the type of people I was dealing with, where it was just like I was dealing with a lot of let's just say a lot of entitled people. So they want things a certain way, you know, and if you don't give it to them that way, you know, it's a problem. So it was very interesting. It was a very different experience for sure. But then the big shift with personal training, at least for myself, and I think even for you too, and for a lot, pretty much anybody who's into fitness in general, came when right before COVID was gonna hit, because then like the news started kind of like going out there and stuff like that. And then like for me, it was just like it was a whole like yeah, it was just a crazy snowball of events that came with 2020. It was like literally the location I was at, there was a water main burst in Midtown West. So the gym I was originally at, it got flooded. So we ended up having to transfer to a location that was like a 15-minute walk down all the way on the far west end side of Manhattan. And we pretty much had to carry over whatever clients we could over to that location. Because of that shift, I lost about half my clientele because they don't want to go down there because it is what it is. And then I had to rebuild back up. I was able to rebuild back up, but as soon as I build back up to where I was at, that's when COVID just hit. Like COVID, they like Cuomo announced, yeah, we're closing down gyms, effective 8 p.m. tonight, everything's shutting down. We're having massive lockdown. And then, as soon as that happened, everyone was like, oh, snap. Damn, this is real. It's like, this is really happening. So it's like, as soon as that happened, it was just like, literally, I spent a whole like week or so, like trying to figure things out. Right. And one thing I forgot to like talk about with my journey is somewhere within the first year, I did establish a bit of like online coaching in terms of like because of the people I was able to affiliate myself with. I did have a couple of online clients. I had like about 4 online clients at the time. So it was just like I had to change their plans up from complete scratch, from like gym stuff to like, all right, we're just going calisthenics, right? Luckily, with the knowledge that I had, it wasn't too much of an issue. But I did have to groom certain people to, shift their mindsets. Like, yes, we could still get the same results with calisthenics like we've been with weight training. So, and then on top of that, it was just like, okay, how many people from New York sports clubs are actually going to be willing to train with me outside of New York sports clubs? So it's just like I went from having the 15 clients that I had in the gym at the time to about 5 that they decided to stick with me. So it was just like, oh, okay, so I have that. And then I have like my 4 online clients. It's like, okay, cool. Let's try to make things work out. So it was just like literally from there, it was just like literally me the whole first month trying to figure out, okay, what direction am I going to go in? Right. So that's when I kind of slowly started like chipping away at putting out more content on YouTube.
Yeah.
I did. So that's kind of like that was like the initial burst. I ended up putting up like, I think like about 6 videos or so. And it was difficult because it's like I just didn't know what to make videos about. It was like I was kind of like having like writer's block, but it was more so with content. So then I remember I kind of just like cut that off, and I was just kind of like posting here and there on Instagram and still just trying to figure things out. And pretty much things just kind of ended up falling into place. Oddly enough, I ended up getting a message from another trainer I used to work at with Blink. He hit me up, was like, hey, Will, do physical therapy office is going to start opening back up in June. Would you like to like, come on board, maybe for a couple of days to get some work? Cool. So I was able to start doing work there. Then literally 2 weeks after that, my guy from another trainer from Blink, the one that I'm helping him out with his boot camp now, he had hit me up. He's like, hey, Will, I got this boot camp going on, and that we're going to get it off and pop in probably July. And, I would like you to come through, see what it's all about, see if you would want to get in on this. Same thing happened. Boom. And then the rest was history. So it's like things kind of like started falling into place in a weird way. And then even after that, I had my other friend, Michael. I'm sure you've seen him on my feed a couple of times here and there. Photographer, one of the best. He's actually in Maryland, but he came out to New York last week just to get some good content in with me. But even with him, he was just like, I ended up hitting him up just randomly one day. I was like, yeah, bro, I see you got this modeling agency. What's all that about? And then he talked to me about it. I was like, oh, yo, can I get in on that? He was like, yeah, of course. And then it was just like, boom, okay, cool. So it's just like everything kind of like weirdly snowballed into place. And then it's like after that, it was just like, okay, I've got things going on. How do I like optimize like what I'm doing now on social media? Because it's like clearly this was the direction that I had to go in, because it's like gyms were an uncertainty, right? And they still are even to this day, even though like things are looking on the up for now. But it was just kind of like, how do I streamline what I'm doing? And obviously I didn't have the answers for myself. So what I ended up doing is I got a mentor, and the mentor, he kind of helped me out streamline certain things and how to optimize how I did things. So after like the 3 months that I did work with him, that's pretty much when I had a good grasp. It was like, okay, let's start chipping away at this. So basically since like September of 2020, I kind of just been chipping away little by little. I've been able to like get my online clientele to a decent number. Right now I'm sitting at about 10. The goal is to have at least 25.
Mhm.
And then aside from my online clients, I also have like a few in person that I do, and also like a few like Zoom sessions that I do. So
Yeah.
there's always that as well. And then obviously then I have my guy that I'm helping him out with his boot camp.
Mhm.
So it's like right now I'm in a pretty good place where it's just like we're coasting, and it's like at the end of the day now it's like my mission is like, okay, you know, build up my clientele to where I want it to be, to help out the individual people that, want my services. But then at the same time, my bigger mission is to really streamline my content so I could put out quality content for the masses, you know? Because I don't like I did like don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good stuff out there, but then there's also a lot of BS out there.
Mhm.
It is what it is. A lot of scams and things of that nature. So it's like I want to be at least a buffer for people to be able to filter through all the nonsense and just get the cold hard information that they need to fit whatever their goals may be. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much my whole like story as far as like really what got me into fitness, and as well as what got me into like personal training.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I appreciate you sharing all that because I know like even starting back with how you went on Accutane, there are definitely all kinds of people going through that same thing where their, self-confidence, body image is low.
That's
And yeah, I mean, honestly, I've heard a lot of I mean, it does work, Accutane, but like a lot
for
of
the
harsh harsh side effects with that. So, yeah, definitely appreciate you taking us through it. So, and it's also funny, man, how doors just start to open. Like if you're like
yeah,
consistent enough, stuff starts to fall through. So
that's a
definitely
fact.
glad it did that for you.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, big facts.
So I'm really interested to hear because I've talked to people, of course, when I was in New Jersey,
Mm.
like everybody was connected to New York City, but you were like in it. So what was like the fitness scene like during like the peak of quarantine? I remember like you had a squat rack somewhere that you were getting some work in, but yeah, I'm definitely interested to hear about it.
Yeah, so yeah, as far as fitness was concerned here in New York, man. So like when it all first went down, literally that day, March 16th, that Cuomo was like, all right, we're shutting the thing down. Literally the next day, actually, no, not the, yeah. Was it the next day? Yeah, literally the next day, me, the one of the fellow trainers at New York Sports Clubs that was working with, and a couple of the members that so happened to live in around our area. We literally linked up at a park just to do some pull-ups and dips and just get some work in.
Hmm.
Um, so it's just like pretty much literally the flow was just like everybody was going to the bars. Literally the bars were like looking crazy busy. But because of that, right? Now, because of that, this is when they started like seeing that. So they started seeing a lot of people go to these bars and these calisthenics places and things like that. That's when they started like, nah, we can't have this. We need to take down the bars. We're gonna take them down. So
Oh,
they
oh,
literally went to each and every single calisthenics park around the city, taped up the bars, took them down, and they did this like basically throughout April. Throughout April, they literally did that. So basically, there was nowhere to work out, unless you had a workout facility at your place. And one of my friends over in Brooklyn, he was working out at a spot with that a fellow trainer that he was working with at another New York sports clubs had. And he was basically paying the guy like a day pass to go work out, or like a week pass to go work out. So like basically people who had like places to work out, facilities to get their work, and they were profiting off of it, to make ends meet, because you got to do what you got to do. So for myself though, from March all the way up until mid-June, I was just doing calisthenics, right? I had my rings, I had my straps, I had equipment at home, and I was doing home workouts. And I would, like, from time to time, if the weather was looking good and there wasn't too many people outside, I'd kind of just like put my mask on. I'd go find a tree and I would just like strap my rings on it. Funny thing, that got cut off very quickly, very fast. Literally within like the first 2 weeks of not even first 2 weeks. I think within the first week and a half, a park ranger came to me. He was like, "Yeah, you can't hang your rings over there. That's $1,000 fine. You need to take that down." I'm just like, "What?" The tree was like the branch was probably thicker than my leg. So it's just like that branch ain't going nowhere, obviously. So it's just like, yeah, they shut that down real fast. So yeah, it was a very interesting time. So it was just like mainly home workouts up until my good friend Chris, he ended up getting some equipment over at his place, right? He actually had got equipment, he had got all the equipment in within April, because he was trying to, like, obviously he's been trying to streamline his progress. So like I've been also like coaching him to like streamline his progress. So he basically offered me, he was like, "Yo, bro, if you want, you're more than welcome to just like come here and get some working with me." So I was like, okay, cool. Obviously I didn't want to do it during the first bit of COVID, because you just never know. I wasn't trying to take no trains either, because it was just like I was just trying to be safe for myself. But once I kind of like started seeing like people slowly get out of the web and like start moving around a little bit more, that's when I took it upon myself, like, okay, let me go get some work in and see what's up. So basically from June up until like gyms opened, I would work out at his place twice a week. I would mainly go there for legs, honestly. And then as far as upper body is concerned, I would like just do my calisthenics at home and things like that. So that was pretty much the flow for myself for like from like July up until like gyms opened back up. So yeah, it was very the entire fitness scene was weird. And then obviously in July you had like little pockets here and there, people who would do like outdoor training sessions. You had like people like that. I know there are like several people who I know from like MMA schools and just like boxing schools and stuff like that. They'll take like people, they would do one-on-ones, run the pads. They would have small group training, run the pads. And that's basically what myself and my fellow trainer Zeke, we were doing with the boot camp. And we were just kind of like doing semi small group training, get people together, get them through some workouts, do this thing. We had through COVID about anywhere between 15 to 20 people, just kind of like social distancing them, to the best of our ability, and just like doing our thing, having them work out, and getting them results. So that's pretty much what it was really like. And here in New York, it was just like everything was like little pockets here and there, people kind of like doing their own thing. And like if you had equipment at home, people were just doing their workouts at home until like gyms opened up. And then even when gyms initially opened up, it was a very slow, gradual build up. So like obviously at first, not a lot of people wanted to go to the gym. So like for like the first 2 months, only the really, really hardcore dedicated people went to the gym. So myself, a lot of the people that I know, we were literally like the only guys in the gym. So it was like literally, I kid you not, probably like 7 people in the gym at a time. Once gyms open back up. And then as things kind of started to progress, once December rolled around, that's kind of like where things started picking up a little bit more. And then obviously January comes in, boom, the New Year rush. Everybody's like, oh, okay, I got to get rid of this COVID weight, or I gotta get in shape, I gotta look better, I gotta stay healthy, things like that. And pretty much since January up until now, a lot of these commercial gyms with that line outside has been absolutely insane. I'm sure you've seen like a lot of the posts on the internet, or I'm sure you've been on a line yourself at some point, maybe just to get some work in. But yeah,
That's
some of those lines get ridiculous, bro.
I didn't actually know about that, man. That's
Oh,
crazy.
really?
So like what, like a Crunch Fitness or whatever, what have you? There's like, how long would you have to wait, would you say?
Bro, so funny, funny you say that. I actually went. I recently transferred my membership to a Crunch that's not too far from where I live at because I know, and I've asked the employees, I'm like, yo, what is the time looking like as far as the line's concerned? Will I be good if I come here at 10 a.m. and not have to wait for a line, or like if I would come at like 12 a.m. They were like, yeah, yeah, you're good until about 2 p.m. About 2 p.m. is when the line outside starts. I was like, all right, bet, cool. So the gym I was going to a Blink that's like literally, I think, like a 5-minute walk away from me. And literally, I kid you not, the line would wrap around halfway across the other side of the block. It's absolutely insane. And then there's a Planet Fitness that's like down not too far, like about a 7 to 10 minute walk away from me. And literally just yesterday, I was walking by it, during rush hour, 5 p.m. I've never seen a line so long just to get into a gym. It was absolutely insane. It went down straight, it wrapped around, it went up a hill. I was like, yo, what the hell? This line is for a gym? Like it's absolutely insane the way these lines are looking. Like I can't, and it's because of those lines. Like if I end up having to like, pretty much get rid of my membership because the lines end up getting out of hand at Crunch, I'm pretty much gonna end up driving probably to Mount Vernon Barbell or something.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, it's getting crazy, man.
That's wild to me.
Yeah, bro.
Man, okay, so I could talk about like New York gyms with you all day because it's so interesting to
Bro,
me. Like
yeah, it's
it's like
insane.
certain like franchises are and certain aren't allowed in the city. There's all
Yeah.
kinds of different stuff going on. Real quick question, kind of outside of the topic, but like, are there many like independent gyms that are like let's say like strictly like barbell powerlifting training or like straight up like calisthenic based, or is it mostly like more big box gyms?
So New York is I would say about 80% of gyms in New York is definitely like big box, like commercial gyms, without a doubt.
Yeah.
There are like specific like gyms that are a little bit more geared towards like powerlifting and stuff. So like for example, like Mount Vernon Barbell, that's for me it's about a 15-minute drive. If I were to take like Metro North or something, it would take me maybe about 45 minutes to an hour to get there. But so like I don't like taking Metro North anyway because it's super slow and the schedule is very rigid.
Mhm.
Um Aside from Mount Vernon Barbell, another one that comes to the top of my mind in Harlem on the east side, there's a JDI Barbell, I believe it's called. It's a very like underground type of feel, but it's really where like you'll find powerlifters, Olympic weightlifters. Um, I forgot. There was a real well known Olympic weightlifter, some Russian dude that
Okay.
went there. Yeah, I forget the guy's name,
Huh.
but yeah, he was there. He did a seminar and stuff. Then it's like the gym is literally the gym is open 24 hours, and
Yeah.
it's like a real like hardcore like lifting. They got all kinds of barbells, specialty bars, specialty racks, chains, bands, you name it. They
Yeah.
have coaches readily available for you. It's like a real like top notch lifting gym if you really wanted to get some lifting. And probably in the city, I would say probably one of the probably top five. Like if I could think off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Um, I know there's a couple of like bodybuilder gyms over in Brooklyn. I know there's Richie's. I know there's actually I don't know if actually Richie's is in Queens. I don't know if they closed down though. There was that. There's Coliseum 2.0. I think that's over in Brooklyn. That's where Kai Green trains out at, I believe, if I'm
Mhm.
not mistaken. So there's that gym. And And yeah, there's like a couple of like bodybuilder gyms just kind of like scattered around, really. But that's pretty much kind of how it is, man. It's just like a lot of these more like, mom and pop style, like real like lifting gyms. It's like they're just so like here and there.
Right.
So, and then especially with the way COVID messed up the situation, there was more of them. right? But a lot of them, because they just couldn't make ends meet, they had to shut down.
Yeah,
So
got you. Yeah, man, that's like totally different. In Columbus, Ohio, like where I went to school and everything, that's like
yeah,
all it is like more like independent type gyms. Of course, there's tons of box gyms and
yeah.
whatnot, but like that's where like West Side Barbell started, so it all kind of just like spread there.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, that's interesting, man. And one of these days, I'm not on the East Coast anymore, but when I'm back, I'm gonna hit you up. We're gonna have
bro.
to get it.
Yeah, bro. You already know, man. You already know. Oh yeah, and as far as calisthenics gyms are concerned, um, in Brooklyn, there's Brooklyn Zoo. There's a couple of them, a handful, in the Bronx, kind of like once again like scattered around. Um, there's like a handful in the city, just kind of like scattered around. But I don't know the name of the facilities off the top of my head. But like the biggest and most well known one in New York is definitely Brooklyn Zoo, and I know also over in New Jersey, my guy, Boss Laveau, he has his own little gym facility, Boss Life Athletics, nice little mom and pop gym, and he trains his clients there and stuff like that. But he also has it open for like calisthenics athletes if they ever want to like go get in some work with him. They're
No.
always more than welcome to do so. So that's just another gym that kind of comes off the top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And on that topic, of course, I'm not like super connected with the scene, but I feel like you're a pretty impressive calisthenics athlete.
Yeah, I appreciate it, bro.
So, what are some of your like most proud accomplishments with calisthenics? Like I know you've done some competitions. I see you on
Yeah,
Instagram doing some crazy stuff. What does that look
yeah,
like for you?
yeah. So I mean, like my most recent PR that I hit on my pull up, I finally got a three plate, so basically 135-pound pull up for 3 reps at 174 pounds body weight. So that's one. And I'm also proud of the fact that I've been able to come back from my couple injuries that I've had on my pecs. I had a back in like early mid-November, I had a pec strain on my right pec, and it basically limited any pushing training that I was doing as far as like horizontal pressing and dips are concerned. I was still able to like vertical press decently with not much of an issue, but I couldn't really do any horizontal pressing. I couldn't really do any like handstand push-up practice and stuff like that. So the fact that I've been able to come back from that, and then it was funny because as I was coming back from that, there was one specific week that I just did way too much training because I ended up going to like a seminar, and then they basically ran us into the ground in the seminar, and like I was just like beyond sore, and then I ended up trying to do a touch up on like a little bit of volume like in the middle of the week, and then wildly enough, I ended up doing a little bit more volume at the end of the week. And then like that same week on the Sunday, I did more volume. And that's when I ended up like getting a mild sprain on my left. And then I was just like, yo, bro, okay. I had that one coming because I
Yeah.
was just like overtraining. It's just like that one. It was like, all right, come on, Will, like for real, you gonna be serious now? So, but the fact that now I'm kind of getting back to like my dip performance, like, just yesterday I posted a little dip PR. I was able to do 3 plates for 9 reps, pretty clean. At 170, I weighed in that morning 172.8. So, like once again, I was also a personal record for me. My goal is 10. I'm literally 1 rep away from that. So like once I hit 10, then I'm gonna kind of like set another goal for myself. So those are like two, like my weighted dip and pull up. Those are 2 goals. Two things as far as like my performance is concerned. I'm definitely proud of. I'm also proud of the fact that my handstands are getting so much better too. Like it's funny because people see my handstands are like, whoa, bro, how's your handstand so straight? Because a lot of people you'll find them, they'll do a handstand banana back. But like for me, it's just like I thrive on just having like literally my handstands like that. So and it's like I've been trying to work towards the handstand push up without the wall. So we're almost there, little by little, kind of inching my way towards that as far as my calisthenics is concerned. Um and yeah, I mean, as far as those, I think those are like my handstand, my weighted pull up, and my weighted dip. I think those are like kind of like my top 3 that I'm really kind of like, proud of like the progress that I've made, because those are like the big 3 that I really focus on as far
Yeah.
as like my calisthenics is concerned. And obviously, like the thing about calisthenics is like as far as like skills is concerned, right? Weighted is just weight, you add more weight, set more PRs. Is pretty much just like you like when you go from like a 2-plate bench to a 3-plate bench, and then same thing goes with like your weighted calisthenics. With skills, it's a little different because it's like with skills, it's just like there's like prerequisites, right? So like the way you progressively overload on a skill is like you'll have skill level 1, skill level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, right? Just like how you have 1-plate, 2-plate, 3-plate, 4-plate, and so on. That's kind of like how the skills are. So it's just like if we were to dissect the handstand a little bit, like the bare bones beginner handstand would be like you just doing a pike hold, right, on the floor, right? You have your ass up, legs, maybe a straddle position or legs together, depending on how your hamstring flexibility is. And you just stack your joints up and you're just holding that. Then literally from there, I guess level 2 would be you just elevate your foot on a platform, right? And you hold the same position and then you keep walking your way up. So eventually you start holding stomach to wall holds, right? And then eventually you're able to do the back to wall holds. And then eventually after you practice and play around with those, you start working on like balancing without using the wall, right? So that's kind of like how it just progresses. It's like a linear progression, but in terms of like body positioning. So eventually you get to like that main goal. And then even when you get to that main goal, once you get from handstand, and it's like, okay, how do we level this up? Like, what do we want to do? Do we want to focus on dynamic skills or static skills? Because there's a big distinction between dynamic and static. So like a dynamic skill would be something like a handstand push-up, right? You're moving through motion, right? Something that's a little bit more of a static skill is like going from a handstand to like a straddle handstand, or maybe a straddle handstand to like the upside down butterfly position, or something like that. So like doing like a one-arm handstand hold, you know what I mean? So it's just like there's like so many different directions that you can go in as far as calisthenics. Like that's why you see so many people where it's just like there's like different subgroups of people. You have people who are like static, like gods that just hold like these crazy like no leg positions, and it's just like one arm holds in like this weird ass thing, human flag and stuff like that. Then you have other people who are more like freestyle. They'll do like all these crazy tricks, 360 on the bar, up into the muscle up, into like jumping off the thing and doing a whole like 720 tornado backflip or some crazy thing like that. Right. And then you have like more of the guys like me, where it's just like you're just overseas, because calisthenics is definitely more popular overseas. At least the calisthenics that I'm more interested in, known as street lifting, which is basically like super, super heavy weighted calisthenics. Like basically these guys, their main focus with their training is get strong as hell on the dip, get strong as hell on the pull up, get strong as hell on the squat, and then get strong as hell on muscle ups. Those are like their big 4. Gotcha. So that's kind of like where I kind of find myself in, even though I don't like go crazy heavy on muscle ups, but like I kind of like find myself in that niche of people more than the others that I mentioned. So
street lifting, it just sounds
they coined that street lifting over there. Yeah,
man, I gotta say your friend was right when he said like you do a really good job of like breaking it down into like a understandable way that people can hear. That was good, man. Like I definitely did not know. I maybe knew like one of the things that you just covered. So that's really cool to have everybody learning about calisthenics, because it is just an impressive like to see you doing pull-ups and dips with 3 plates. I'm like, damn, like, and you just said you do weighted muscle ups. Like, bro, I can't even do one muscle up. Period. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's
go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say that it's funny. Like people view the muscle up there's a lot of people who view the muscle up as like a very hard skill, whereas everybody or most people in the calisthenics community view the muscle up as a very easy skill to learn. It's weird how that works, because it's funny. Like I learned how to do a muscle up when I was 18, which is weird. I learned how to do it impromptu because I watched the Cali Muscle video, and I'm sure you're familiar with who he is. And I remember seeing this big ass dude, 270 pound at the time, busting out muscle ups. In my head, I'm looking at my phone and I'm like, nah, if this big dude could do this, there's no way my little self cannot get over that bar.
Yeah.
So I remember like, yeah, I spent like a week trying to like figure out how I'm gonna do it, right? I didn't really watch any videos on it. I was just kind of like seeing how it would be done. I'm like, all right. So they kind of like just pull up and they kind of like go over the bar and they do a dip. I'm like, okay, I'll break it down then. And then I remember I just, for whatever reason, I couldn't get over the bar until one day, like I went with my friend Rich, to the park, and we were just like, just messing around. And then I'm like, yo, bro, record me. I'm gonna try to do something. And then in my head, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna pull up literally as hard as I can and see if I could get over the bar. And like literally, I grabbed the bar and I just like literally yanked myself over and I got over the bar. I'm like, oh, okay, this is how you do it. So it's just like
Yeah.
ever since then, every time I tell people, or people ask me like, yo, well, how do you do a muscle? I'm like, pull up as hard as you can.
Right.
That's literally like that's where it all starts off. I just pull up as hard as you can. Obviously, there's more than that. There's like a lot of little details that go into it. Like for example, like the arc in which you pull. Like a lot of people, when you're at least when you're learning a muscle up, people oftentimes they think about pulling straight up, like a pull up. If you do that, you won't be able to get over the bar, especially if you're a novice at it. You actually want to pull kind of like out and over, so like an arc. So almost like when you're when you're doing a pull down or a pull over, right? It's kind of like this motion,
Hmm.
right? That's basically the same motion when you grab the bar and you
Yeah.
pull to get over. So it's like you're basically thinking about pulling as low as possible to get over. So,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
that's kind of like the whole thing with the muscle up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Man, you got me tempted to go out and try one. I'm like thinking
I
about it.
bet you could do it too, bro. Like
Yeah.
you most likely can. I know you're a lot leaner now, so you
Yeah.
got a little bit of fat off of you. So
Dude, this would
and
be the
I know
time.
too, you bust out those pull-ups.
This would be the time for me to do it if I'm ever gonna do it. Dude,
Nah,
I'm just trying to.
honestly, I think you could get it because it's like literally anybody. I always say this is like if you could do 15 pull-ups clean, chin over bar, you could do at least one muscle up. You just gotta learn the motion.
Yeah. Yeah. Got you. Yeah. That's good stuff. You're gonna have everybody out here trying muscle ups.
Hey man, one muscle up at a time. Muscle ups make the world go around.
Yes, sir. So I'm real curious then, Will. What's
Mm,
next for you in terms of like calisthenics, your fitness goals, your personal training, all that? Like, I know you talked a little bit about some of what you want to do in terms of getting clients, but if there's any
yeah.
other grand scheme type things, definitely interested to hear it.
Got you. As far as like my own goals is concerned, I do have some milestone goals that I want to hit. As far as how soon I'll get to them, I'm not sure how long it's gonna take because I'm starting to being that because so it's funny because the stronger I've been getting at weighted calisthenics, it takes a lot on your CNS, and that's something that I didn't realize initially until like I really started realizing like, damn, like I feel tired, I feel shot. Like so, for example, if I were to do like a because recently I split up. I used to do a 6 day split. I was doing either push pull leg or I was doing kind of like a modified push pull 6 days a week. But I realized I was just kind of like running my body into the ground. And for me, not saying that this would work for everybody because everybody's very different. But for me, I noticed that for whatever reason, I get the best results when I do like an upper lower and I just keep it at 4 days a week. And
Mhm.
then like maybe in between I'll do maybe some cardio or some like calisthenic skill training just to keep the body moving, or maybe I'll go like, hit the heavy bag and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So as far as my goals is concerned, I'm trying to streamline my progress so that way I could finally get that 5 plate dip, so 225 pound on the dip. I want to get a 4 plate pull up, so 180 pounds on the pull up. As far as my lower body is concerned, I do want to get a 4 plate squat, so 405, and I want to get a 5 plate deadlift. I feel like those are two milestones I should have hit a long time ago. But once again, the reason why I didn't hit it is because it's like I didn't realize just how much my calisthenics work and how intensive it was that it was actually taking away from a lot of what I was doing as far as my lower body and my lower extremities are concerned.
Mhm.
So, and then another thing, as far as I'm concerned, like my physical attributes are concerned, I'm starting to notice. And I had a very interesting conversation yesterday with my good friend Miguel. He's another absolute calisthenics beast. Like, if you want to talk about like a big dude, like dude walks around 200 plus pounds that could move on some bars, that's the guy you want to really look at. But like, we were having a very interesting conversation, and we were kind of like chiming in terms of like, oh yeah, so it's like, being that my goals is like, I'm trying to be as strong as possible. Me and him kind of came to the conclusion that is like, as long as you focus on volumizing within like the 5 to 10 rep range, and then building up slowly, and then also working on fixing whatever your weak points may be on specific movements, that, you know, it'll carry over into you having a high 1 rep max without beating up your body too much.
Okay.
Right. At least for calisthenics is concerned. And obviously everybody's a little different. There's so many different ways to skin in, you know, like script programming to, especially to peak somebody for like a 1 rep max and things like that. So I feel like the volumization works best for upper body. I feel like with lower body, the more traditional, either like linear or wave progressing and things like that, or undulation, or what's the other one I'm thinking about? The conjugate method. Like, I feel like those work good for lower body as well as like bench press and things like that. So, but yeah, those are like my main goals as far as like my physical is concerned. And I also want to get that handstand push-up, right? So those are kind of like my milestone goals I want to reach. Like, once I hit those milestone goals, then I'll focus on more of like the crazy, like bigger performance-oriented goals that I have in mind. So like, those are like the main things I have right now. So like all in phases.
Yeah.
As far as like the overall like future, as far as what I have in mind for myself, obviously, I chimed in a little bit earlier, I want to be able to like affect as many people as I can, you know, give out quality information. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. As long, it could be one person, it could be several, right? As long as I'm able to give quality information to somebody and they get value out of that, and it helps mold and change their lives for the better through health, fitness, and wellness, then, you know, I'm all for it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like my main thing. You know, I want to be able to like continue to do what I do full time, you know, train people, put out good content, and just embody the lifestyle, you know, for, you know, days to come, right? And years and years to come. So that's really kind of like my main focus as far as that's concerned. And maybe somewhere down the road, like as soon as things are a little bit more streamlined here in the city, as far as like the combative schools, like I really want to get back into MMA. And I've just been like looking at so many different schools, but it's just like a lot of them, they're still closed down right now. Or if they're open, there's like they're very restrictive with certain things. Like, they're mainly either doing striking and minimal grappling. And like the schools that are doing like basically the whole thing, they're probably like a little too, they're just like too far for me to like go to it right now.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I'm kind of chiming in on. I kind of want to get back into those roots because, you know, I miss it. You know, I like, for me, like there's something that I get out of doing combative, like, you know, sports, boxing, Muay Thai, MMA, BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, judo, wrestling, that I don't get just out of like, you know, pumping some iron, getting a nasty pump and looking good in the mirror.
Right.
So yeah, so that's another thing I have in mind.
Nice.
And aside from that, I feel like there's one more thing I'm trying to remember. Yeah, if it comes to me, I'll talk about it. But yeah, those are like the main things I'm really focused on right now. You know, just want to streamline the content, you know, really help the masses, keep doing what I'm doing, accomplish my fitness goals, and, you know, maybe get back into, here you go, came to mind. And I like being that I am competing readily in these calisthenics competitions, you know, maybe win one of them, you know.
Yeah.
Cause I've never been like uber competitive, but every time I go to these events, like I see more and more. It's like, damn, there's more and more levels to this that I wasn't even aware of, right? Like, there's like a whole other like avenue of strength that I could be achieving. So it's just like, mainly the main reason that I would want to compete more is just to level myself up more, right?
Yeah.
It kind of gives you like a little bit of a boost in a sense of where it's just like, you know, if you think that what your goals are right now is like, it is really, that's it for you. Nah, go compete, go see what these absolute monsters are doing, and then reevaluate what's possible as far as human potential is concerned. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I kind of like go to these competitions, like I want to compete more, maybe win one, but also more so just to continue to level myself up and just to keep setting the ceiling higher and higher each time, man. So that's pretty much, as far as I'm concerned, what I'm really focused on.
Yeah, man. And it's cool to see that you have like such, I mean, I wouldn't say they're like outlandish, but just clearly defined
Yeah,
and like all stuff that I know you're gonna be able to do.
yeah,
So once again, another takeaway for the people right there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, one more thing I would want to add to that is good you brought that up. You know, like goal setting is definitely something that's very important, but you want to be realistic with the types of goals that you set. So, and this is something I'm being more firm with myself, especially recently. What I like to do is I like to set short-term goals. So I like to set goals that I know for a fact that I should be able to achieve within like 2 to 3 weeks or within the month of training, right? So
Mm,
let's say, for example, like I'm programming for myself. Let's say the first week of April, right? We're about to be April. Let's say the first official week of April, I have programs for myself. Let's say something a little bit more well known to people. We're talking about bench press, right? Let's say I have in my program that I'm doing a 3x6 with 185 pounds. Maybe by week 4, the goal will be to do maybe 205 for 3 sets of 6. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Be a little bit more realistic with how you make your jumps, or even if it's not even in weight, understand that there's so many different ways to progress. You know, you don't just have to continuously add weight on the bar. Maybe you could set your goal to be like, oh, okay, I'm like this day I'm gonna hit, 3x6 with this weight. Maybe 4 weeks from now, you want to do that same 3x6 with that weight, but you want to do it with like a super controlled negative or something like that. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's tempo, different variations. You could do it with a pause. You could do it with like a pulsing rep, whatever you
Right.
want. So many different ways to skin the cat. And, you don't always have to just focus on weight, because I feel like a lot of people get caught up on weight, unless you're a powerlifter, unless your sport requires you, or whatever your focus is requires you to like lift maximal amounts of loads, then I would understand that, okay, yeah, I want to hit these numbers or whatever. But if your calling doesn't necessarily revolve around lifting tons and tons of weight, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do what you do. What you should focus on is just quality movement, quality technique. Get that desired stimulus for to grow your muscles, and hit your overall goals. Especially I would say about 70 to 80% of people that get into fitness because they want to look good. You want to look good, man, just do the main basic movements, and just build up little by little. Don't worry too much about the weight. Obviously, weight is a indicator of growth. But if you do find yourself in a sticking point where it's like you can't like inch your way up as far as weight is concerned, understand there's different variables you could change. You could do less rest time. You could do more reps. You could do a slower tempo. You could do a different variation. So
Oh yeah. Unlimited combinations
yes,
and permutations out here.
always, always.
Yeah, but I 100% agree, man. And I think I gotta start to employ that like short-term goal set
Oh
more so
yeah.
myself and focus on it, because I think it just one keeps the game interesting. Like you're constantly
Oh yeah.
striving for something, and you're obviously going to see the progress as well if you are really focused on achieving that more short-term marker rather than getting
Exactly.
kind of caught up in the long-term type deal stuff. That's good. That's a really good one right there, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah, it's like that. Basically, it's because it's always the little things at the end of the day that add up to that one big thing, right? So it just ends up becoming a snowball effect.
Yes,
And
sir.
then on top of that, it's like, hey, there's still a lot of people who rely kind of like on having that mental hype going into like a workout, right? So to
Mhm.
bust out some real good like sets and reps and stuff like that. You know, oftentimes people like let's say their goal is like so like, for example, if maybe right now I'm somebody who's squatting 225 and I'm working up to squatting 275. That's like about a 50-pound difference, right? That's quite a big gap, right? There's a lot of little work in between that you'll have to do to get up to that goal. right? So maybe instead of like just thinking to yourself, oh, I got to do this workout, I'm so far away from my goal, right? Why not be like, oh, now the goal for this workout is going to be, okay, I want to do 225, 5x5. The next workout, I want to do 225 for 5x5 with more control.
Mm,
Next workout, I want to do 225 for maybe a 5x6. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Like little things like that, that volumization and that little intricate progression over time, that's what's really going to give you that drive to go into each workout with purpose, right? The
Yeah.
moment you change it to going into working out with purpose, you have a lot more energy. You have a lot more drive to really want to get the thing done versus just kind of like thinking you just got to go through the motions. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's a really good that's a very good point, especially like if you're just a trainer looking to kind of like motivate your clients, or
that's
if
a
you're just going through it by yourself, have a purpose for each workout. That's really well put, man.
that's a fact. Yeah, thank you, bro. Appreciate it.
Dropping gems all over the place.
As we should, bro. As we should, man.
Yes, sir. Well, Will, I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I feel like we were able to hit on some great topics, man. Like just going through the journey, it can definitely help people that want to do the same, and providing, the stuff that you went through and the solutions to how you overcame it. It's very, very valuable. So I appreciate you going through and discussing all that with me, man. But before we sign off, I want to
Mm.
get the people to go support you. So where can they find you?
So you could find me on Instagram at Will2Gain. So like the two as in the number two, right? And Will as in WILL, and then Gain, GAIN. And you could also find me on YouTube at William Santiago III. Make sure you turn on post notifications, do the whole thing. And yeah, man, those are my two main platforms. Not on Twitter just yet. I am on TikTok at Will Flex Daily. We're slowly building up that TikTok, trying to navigate it a little bit, trying to figure out what I want to put on TikTok, because
Yeah.
I think that's a platform I need to take advantage of sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'm the same way. But guys, I would really appreciate it if you go check Will out. Please do. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'd also appreciate it if you hit it with a like, subscribe
Oh
for more
yeah,
content like it,
oh yeah,
and
yeah,
then share it around. Hit that
yeah,
notification bell. Do the whole thing
yeah.
as
Do the
well.
whole thing, man.
And then
Yes.
if you're listening on Spotify, I always appreciate sharing this podcast around. If you leave me a review on Apple Podcast, it's always great for the brand.
Yes, sir.
Guys, thank you all so much for listening. And Will, really appreciate you, man.